How many times have you ordered fabric online and when it showed up, it just wasn't right? It was too thick or thin, too stiff or not enough, it feels bad, or it just doesn't look right, but it looked totally fine in the photos. That's always been a frustrating part of sewing for me. But when Joann closed, it got a lot worse. A lot of us lost our go-to place to just walk in, touch fabrics, and know immediately whether it was going to work. Now we're ordering blind, and that costs money. So I built this. It's a fabric swatch book, a physical reference library of fabric I've held in my hands, organized so I can use it every single time I'm shopping online. And by the end of this video, you're going to know exactly how to build one for yourself. I'll show you the whole system, including one section of fabrics that's organized very different from the others and why that's important. I've got a free template for you linked in the description, as well as a list of all the materials I use so you don't have to start from scratch. Why don't we dive in directly to what a swatchbook page looks like. So here is a swatchbook page I have for some cotton samples. I have it in a plastic page protector so that it's easy for the pages to stay together and for the fabric to not flap around. You can pull out the actual page. So the swatches are 4 inches by 4 inches. I picked 4 by 4 inches because it was a good mix of allowing for at least 4 swatches per page while still giving you enough fabric to be able to see enough of a pattern if it has a pattern, but also to be able to handle it and see how it interacts as well as folds and drapes. These pages have several different important pieces of information. So the name, a lot of different shops will have a lot of different names for their fabric. I put the content. So in this case, it's 100% cotton. I think it's important to note whether it's woven or knit or non-woven. Stretch is also really important because when you do need stretch, you need to know how much you have in both directions. Weight is also important, and weight is something that's really hard to tell from a picture, so it's really useful. I also included denier here. Denier is a measurement of mass. It should be a good measurement of a mixture of weight and density, so how much is packed into the fabric versus how heavy does it feel. I also put the seller. It's important for me if I ever want to buy the fabric again. One pro tip is if the fabric sample came with a label or any other information that I think is important, I keep that under the piece of fabric, so I just tape it on, as well as I have a section for notes. So if there's any other information about the fabric that I want to keep, I can write it down here. You'll note that the fabric is taped on instead of glued or stapled. I did that because it's relatively easy to pull the tape off and to be able to take it out. It's really nice to be able to handle these separate of the actual piece of paper because it allows you to put more than one piece of fabric next to each other so that if you want to see how well they go together, you can, as well as you can bring it to different lights, because one of the things that I've found is that fabric can look very different in like sunlight versus in like a convention hall or inside. I try to optimize my fabric to look best in photos under the situation that I expect that the costume will be in most of the time. I specifically size this so you can see the most important information without the fabric covering it. You'll notice that the pages that the fabric swatches are attached to is pretty stiff. They're made out of cardstock so that they're a lot easier to handle than something like printer paper. And then you can somewhat easily put it back into the plastic page protector. And it's nice because you can flip between the pages without the fabric flopping everywhere. Now that we've looked at the swatch page, let's look at the entire book itself. This is a 3-inch binder, and it's pretty heavy duty. I keep extra fabric swatch pages in the front pocket. I also keep a 4-inch by 4-inch fabric swatch template for me to be able to easily cut out the fabric swatches to the size I want. This is just cardstock, the same cardstock that's used for each of the template pages. The template pages are completely free to use. I have it linked down in the description. I have dividers for each of the sections, and I section them off by fabric content. So what is the fabric made of? For instance, I have sections for cotton, wool, linen, polyester, nylon, rayon, PVC, and a special section we're going to talk about in a little bit. This is my favorite section of the book. As you can see, the tabs of the section dividers weren't long enough to go past the pages with the protectors on them, and so I added an extra sheet of paper along the tab with a label of what it is, and I made it so long enough so that it could stick out past the paper. In the back of the binder, I keep extra plastic sleeves so that they're easily accessible. Now to the most special tab that I have in here. You know how I said that I have tabs for each of the different content types of fabric, like cotton, wool, or linen? Well, the last tab is not a content type. It's actually its own category, and that's spoon flower. Us cosplayers oftentimes have to try and find fabric that either doesn't exist anymore or has never existed. The common thing for us to have to do is for us to have to design and print our own fabric. Spoonflower is one of the companies you can go to if you want to print your own fabric. They offer a sample pack of all of the different fabrics and materials that you can print with them, and that is extremely useful for you to evaluate what fabric you want to use for your custom print. So I keep a section of only Spoonflower fabric swatches together, so when I want to order something from Spoonflower, I don't want to have to go digging through all of the rest of my non-Spoonflower fabric swatches to go find what Spoonflower offers. I'd rather have all of the Spoonflower offerings in one section so I can just peruse it and pick which type of fabric or material is best for my project. Their sample pack has a lot of different fabrics in it, from cottons to synthetics to stretch fabrics, jerseys. They have twill and denim, linen, canvas. Like, you can even get wallpaper printed there. And they also have things like fleece or minky or velvet, even crepe or chiffon or satin. Like, these are not fabrics I use a lot, but it's great to have here to really understand what my options are. That's my fabric swatch book. If you have any suggestions on how to make it better, drop them in the comments. The free fabric swatch template page, as well as all the materials I used, are linked down in the description. If you found this helpful, please hit the like button, and if you want to see more like it, consider subscribing. With that, may your fabric search be fruitful, and stay crafty, friends.